So we're going to beam on over to expert host Keith M. Cedar. Okay, so while we've been playing mind tricks on each other, I had to ask this Treksperts host, what villains are the highest ranked in this never-ending saga? Which ones stole the show because they were proper writing, they were worthy of the crew outsmarting them, they were more than just a famous actor doing a stunt casting, and hamming it up. There's something about it, these particular selected villains, that were worthy of the Roddenberry franchise.
Do you want to do a count up and start with the ones people want to hear, or do you want to do a countdown?
I want your take.
We end with the best.
Just your take, my dude. Just your take. Just the ones that stay with you. They don't have to be in a top 250.
All right, let's just go right for the big get and get him out of the way.
This is called build up.
We're not going to build up anything. You know what? We'll fill this in with a lot of good commentary, but let's just get Khan out of the way, all right? Because he's the one everybody thinks of. Here's the thing, and I'll tell you about Khan, why the story works so well, and I'll, as a side note, interject why the 2000 the 2000, what was it, 11, 12?
Either way,
J.J. Abrams
universe,
Star Trek Into Darkness was such utter schlock. Number one, Benedict Cumberbatch could not pass off as Indian. The guy mints money. That's why he got hired for the job, and he's a great actor.
Well, just don't hire people who make homages. Instead, hire people who make actual movies. That's what the franchise needs. No more Jar Jar Abrams. So
the fundamentals of the Khan story is that here he is. He's this genetically engineered Superman who escaped Earth in the 1990s, 1996 to be specific, as they told it in 1966, with a cadre of fellow genetically engineered Supermen because they were overthrown as they were trying to take over the Earth.
Yeah.
And they didn't have any type of warp drive, so they were in a sleeper ship. Captain Kirk finds them almost 300 years later, and with his superior ambition and intellect, tries to take over the Enterprise and kill Captain Kirk. Well, Kirk being Kirk, that's not going to happen. I mean, we're talking about the guy who can talk a computer to death, wrests control back from Khan, and takes his ship back in a nutshell. You want to see the story, if you haven't already, which I'm sure you have, go and rewatch the original series episode, Space Seed.
There
now,
you go.
Taking Khan to the next level is Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan.
There you go.
You can't start the Khan story with Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, even though his name is in the title. You have to start with Space Seed when Kirk and Khan are both younger guys. Because what Kirk does is quite magnanimous. He actually says, hey, we're going to be passing by this planet that's uninhabited, and I could either take you for court-martial, or I could drop you off here and you have a go of it and figure out what you can make.
I'm your bloodsucker.
Now, of course, Kirk doesn't know the next planet in the solar system is going to explode and shift the orbit of this one, laying it to waste. But 15 years go by, Kirk is the only captain to have completed his 5-year mission without losing his ship, his crew, or himself. He gets promoted to admiral, but he's not a desk job type of guy. So by the time we get 15 years later to this movie in 1982, he's in his early 50s. He's feeling older, and he doesn't have his act together as far as knowing what his place in the world is anymore. And he's feeling really displaced.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as luck would have it, he winds up coming face to face. And here's an irony of the movie. He doesn't actually come physically face to face, only on the view screen. The irony of Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan is that while Kirk and Khan fought in hand-to-hand combat in Space Seed, they never come face to face other than on a view screen in The Wrath of Khan. And
plus,
Khan is the type of villain. Khan is very, very layered and multidimensional. In any good story, the villain doesn't think he's the villain. He thinks he's the protagonist.
He thinks he wants revenge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, his planet was laid wasted. His wife was killed by these indigenous creatures. You know, there's nothing here. Kirk never came to check on him. You know, he's been doing this slow burn for 15 years, and he was already a couple sandwiches short of a picnic lunch to begin with, as far as being wrapped really tightly. And now you come 15 years later, he's just sitting here in the sand going, what the hell? You know, now all of a sudden, oh, a Starfleet ship shows up? Yeah.
Here's
time
my
to get some revenge.
opportunity. Yep.
Exactly.
He was Hans Gruber before it was cool. But
that's a good way. That's a good way of putting it.
Because literally, you watch the original Wrath of Khan movie, it's practically Die Hard in space before they were doing that with First Contact and all the even next gen episodes.
And the original title of Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan was Star Trek II: The Vengeance of Khan.
The Vengeance. So
and the reason why they changed the title was because that is when Revenge of the Jedi was in production.
Yeah.
And so before George Lucas said, "Oh, well, the Jedi wouldn't get revenge; they would come back. It would be the Return of the Jedi." Harv Bennett said, "You know what? We need to change this from Vengeance because it sounds too much like the next Star Wars movie, which would have been Revenge." So we went to the Wrath of
Even
Khan,
though we're using their effects company.
Yeah, exactly. But the interesting thing is, you know, with Wrath, now we're talking directly about one of the 7 deadly sins.
Mm-hmm.
So
bingo.
So
Kirk's imperfect, but he doesn't have anywhere near the amount of sins that Khan's got in his closet. But and
he's not genetically modified either, so he has that for him.
That's true. Yeah, unlike some of his other people who are expanded upon in Enterprise, who are basically super soldiers, he's like pretty pure, muscular, and just ready to fucking die.
Tell me who you think a significant villain is right off the top of your head.
Oh man, so we went through a bunch of them. We went through General Chang and Undiscovered Country, Raffo and Insurrection, and of course.
Well, don't think we have to stay just with the movies because
No, I didn't.
All
but
of
like
TV to draw from there.
No, we went through the various one-off characters, like the one time traveler on Next Gen, played by Max Headroom. We went through the various androids and guys starting a coup on Voyager. We went.
The character's name was Rasmussen, and he was from.
I know. Jersey. I can't name them all. But since you want me on the spot, anyone that comes close to Khan is definitely Gul Dukat in K-Win.
Really? In Kai-Win?
Yeah.
Huh.
The original character, or as various.
Well, you know, Louise Fletcher is kind of the actor to really portray a villain. I mean, even before they went down this whole Pa race path with Dukat. And Dukat wasn't even in the picture. She was really, really an antagonist to Ben Sisko.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, they really built that character.
They sugarcoated at first because they just wanted the political politician you don't trust.
She's kind of like the Star Trek version religious zealot. Even though Marjorie Taylor Greene's not a religious zealot, she's that kind of nut. Kai-Win.
Oh yeah. If anything, well, in season 1, she's basically Marjorie Taylor Greene. By the end of the run, she's basically Lauren Bobart, where she's just
there you go.
She's like, well done. I never said that. Yes, you did. Oh, well, I don't think I said it. Yes, you did. Yeah, there was a hysterical meme, if you can look up, where they say K-Win sounds too much like Karen.
Well, it's actually Kai. The religious term on Bajor is not K, it's Kai.
Kai-Win sounds Kai-Win. Like Karen.
Yep. Yeah. So much the same way that they would have priests and I'm trying to think what in human religions they'd have, but they had Kai, and then the step down was called a Vedic.
A Vedic, yes. Vedics are basically the ones who they shit all over and basically take advantage of.
It was like the lieutenant.
However, the villain chooses to abuse them because you know how it is, as you've already pointed out. The thing about these villains is they are Roddenberry's and companies, even Ronald D. Moore, especially when he gets to Galactica. He carries a lot of these themes from DS9 over, where always question whoever's in control, whoever's in power. Just because they're appointed doesn't mean they're sane. And it's just so much fun to just kind of how all the villains pretty much become either Section 31 renegades, or they're just other tyrants that are even deadlier than a typical TOS or TNG character.
Yeah, it was funny when they tried to recruit Dr. Bashir into Section 31. I'm like, yeah, this guy's not Section 31 material.
Oh, well, that's just it. It's like they kept recruiting him. So
now Brad Boimler is, or is it William Boimler? Are you watching Star Trek Lower Decks?
I did see that. I didn't think of that, but there are definitely some questionable characters that we could definitely take from Lower Decks.
Another one that I think is really relevant is Soren from Star Trek Generations.
Wait, I was going to
Malcolm
mention
McDowell is really, really multifaceted. I mean, you look at him play H.G. Wells in the 1979 Time After Time with who's the guy who played David Warner. You look at him play opposite David Warner in Time After Time, and he plays this mild, meek, gentle, introspective, thoughtful H.G. Wells versus the maniacal care only about my mission guy he plays as Soren. It's a night and day difference, and it really shows the spectrum of his abilities as an actor.
Do you think Nicholas Meyer put in a word for him, even though he had nothing to do with the 7th movie? It seems like if you worked with any of these guys, they ended up on the track list.
There's always that possibility, Cam. I couldn't say one way or another whether it did or it didn't. But it's funny. For as much praise as Nicholas Meyer gets for Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan and The Undiscovered Country, I don't love Star Trek VI.
No, it's fine.
As far as the original series cruise movies go, I love the trilogy that is 2, 3, and 4. But I think Star Trek VI is only made marginally better by the existence of Star Trek V: Let's Find Jesus.
Right. Although I did jokingly put in God and Spock's brother because
okay, well there you go.
They're basically bad guys, which are a perfect examination. It's just like basically Star Trek V is a canon film.
It should be shot out of one.
It's well intended.
It should be shot out of one.
Exactly. It just happened to, they just had to hire someone who wasn't capable of telling any kind of concise story.
Well, the fact of the matter is that Shatner directed it. And while Shatner is an entertaining actor, I don't know that he's got directorial chops.
Well, he didn't even take responsibility for it.
When Leonard Nimoy directed Star Trek 3 because Spock was dead, and there was a way to have him involved in it before they brought him back.
Exactly, and you make way more.
But then he did such a good job with it, they gave him Star Trek 4.
Yeah.
While they were negotiating everything, because Shatner wanted to direct Star Trek 4, but the studio wanted Nimoy. In order for Shatner to agree to come back, they had to agree to give him a movie to direct, which is Star Trek 5.
Goddamn egos.
We're off topic here.
No, that's fine.
I'm going to do a deep dive here, and this is for our Trek purists. Star Trek Voyager. Anorak.
Yeah, we mentioned him. He was a very cool dude.
You did, from the Year of Hell.
Yes, with Kurtwood Smith.
Kurtwood Smith, I love him. He's such a great actor. He did a show called Worst Week. It was about his soon-to-be son-in-law during the week, I think, prior to their wedding. The whole show takes place in the week prior to he's going to marry Kurtwood Smith's daughter. And so the future son-in-law is having his worst week. But he just plays such a good unintentional antagonist to this young guy. If you ever get to see Worst Week, it's really, really good. I think you probably pick it up on Amazon
I heard of it.
On the cheap. But I think he is so determined to set time straight and at the same time put an equal amount of effort into thwarting and subverting Captain Janeway at every turn. The only disappointment I really have in that episode, that two-parter episode, is that could have, it had the potential for a much longer story arc. I mean, you could have literally taken that whole season and made it the Year of Hell.
I would
And
have
they
definitely
didn't do
preferred that instead of just going back to, who's taking over the ship.
You would have or would have not. You would not have liked that.
No, I totally. I'm with you. I would have preferred it too. Because it was so powerful as a two-parter. There's no denying it would have probably worked had we just not had Jerry Taylor and Brandon Braga trying to overwrite each other and Berman not insisting it be syndication.
Hey, listen, I will never, ever say a bad word about Berman, Braga, or Taylor not that I would have before, but especially in contrast to what 21st century Trek writers are doing. Who's a good villain that I really, really liked?
Hit me.
Michael Ansara as Kang in the Star Trek original series episode Day of the Dove. Basically, the Enterprise gets a distress signal. They beam down to this planet where they think there's supposed to be a starbase or a colony, and it's gone. Not even any trace of it. And then the Klingons beam down, basically thinking the same thing. And there's this malevolent entity which radiates hostility, and it thrives when whoever it gets to fight near it, because it thrives on the negative energy. And so basically it winds up blowing up the Klingon ship. The Klingons come aboard the Enterprise, and they're just going to endlessly fight, feeding hostility and negative emotions for this entity until the Enterprise crew realizes it, and he has to convince Kang, the captain of the Klingons, to cease hostilities, as he puts it, so that they don't all continue to kill themselves as they
It's
warp
really
out the
cool
galaxy.
seeing them, they already were a little insecure about learning the Klingon language versus English amongst each other, but now that they're having to flat out communicate and say, hey, think outside your damn heads for 1 minute. This is not what you think it is. It's just amazing how they play into that. And again, it's another fun Under Siege episode where an unusual supernatural entity is holding the ship hostage. They're having to flat out work together, and they don't want to work together because they got to flat out solve all the other disputes on each deck where crew members are running rampant. But
actually, real quick, I can't believe I almost forgot this in all the conversations that I've had. It's literally one of my favorite Star Trek movies, and I said I didn't want to spend all our time on the Star Trek movies, but
it's fine. Say what you
Christopher Lloyd as Krug.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, masterful. I mean, I watched a comedian once talk about the fact that it was Kevin Pollak, I think it was. He talked about how he didn't realize that it was Christopher Lloyd playing Commander Krug under under all the prosthetics and heavy makeup. He says he starts talking. The first half of the movie, he's talking only in Klingon with subtitles, and then he confronts Captain Kirk, and all you hear is Reverend Jim from Taxi. Captain Kirk, you don't want to give me the Genesis device? Okie doke. But
that's pretty much it. And plus the immortal, even before you get to the immortal Kirk line, I mean, just him giving the captain a total ass whooping, and then it's just so weird because when you first see him, you just don't really know what to think. You think, oh, is he just going to be a typical Klingon like in the
two-dimensional? Is he going to look like the bad guy? Is he going to be a placeholder for the bad guy? Or is he going to be actually a bad guy?
Is he just going to be a typical idiot who they knock out? And...
Yeah, is he just going to be a black hat, to represent that
totally
level?
A henchman who somehow became captain of his ship? Is like, no, it's a little bit of that and more. But then when he flat out executes one of his members of his ship who's failed him, and then it gets even wackier when he's just he doesn't even ask for any more questions. He's like, resume. Get up here. Get your ass up here. Start piloting. He doesn't even wait for them to breathe. And it's just even funnier seeing the members of his crew are supposed to be all heroic. They're almost always portrayed as Vikings or samurai equivalent. And here they're having to rush. They're having to get their ass to Mars, Total Recall style. They're like, okay, well, whatever he says, don't have time to gloat over who's just been dishonorably murdered by our captain. We gotta go and fucking.
As long as it wasn't me.
It wasn't me. Fun fact: the guy he executes is David Cadiente, who is was a pretty well known stuntman back in his day. That's like his best known role. But it's interesting too how his son Jeff Cadiente became the stunt coordinator on DS9.
Really, I did not know that.
Jeff is amazing. He has done Diner.
I just think of that scene where he's like, "Tomabu, Jodane," meaning, "You idiot! I wanted prisoners."
Right.
A lucky shot, sir. He blows him out of the water.
There you go. It doesn't even wait for him.
Animal. Yeah. I'm astonished at the level of Klingon I know, because that just says how many times I've watched these movies. Because I don't know conversational Klingon, unlike the Mark Okrand novel, which was worked on. The Klingon language was actually worked on with Mark Leonard, who helped.
I remember that
with Scotty
Duhan. Yeah.
Yep.
So unheard of. Is like, but that's dedication. That's actors with too much, not only commitment and free time, but who want to build the world that they've fallen in love with. That's great.
It's funny. There is a foreign language app that my family uses because we'll be doing some traveling this year. Duolingo, yes. And Klingon.
I always know when someone's playing it.
I haven't done that. I mean, right now I'm just focusing on Spanish and French because we're going to be in Europe this year. And I did some of the Gaelic, and I'm just like, yeah, I could tell that I've been exposed to Spanish and French my whole life because I get what they're trying to say, even if I'm learning new words. The Gaelic, which I've never done before, my mother-in-law's from Ireland. The Gaelic, it was just like, oh my God, this is beyond foreign. This is hurting my brain. Yeah, but Duolingo does a good job.
Does it have a Klingon Adam?
Yeah.
That would be amazing. And I kind of got the gist of that. I mean, kind of like how I always felt like the elves in both the books and movie and even the show of Lord of the Rings were kind of like Vulcans, the whole pointy ear.
Really? Well, it's like watching. Have you seen Leonard Nimoy do Bilbo Baggins? The
Ballad of Bilbo Baggins? Yeah, it's just like when Shatner sings.
You can't unsee that.
I know, but when you grow up with cheesy bad movies, it's hysterical.
I mean, I'd almost rather want to see Shatner do the spoken word of Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds than that.
Which is saying something. Pick your poison.
Yeah, exactly. To expect one to order poison in a bar is not logical.
It is most illogical, but that's kind of what we're getting. Either way, it's shit.
You did get my Star Trek 3 reference there, right?
He says poison?
Yeah, so okay. Dr. McCoy, it's the beginning of Star Trek 3. Dr. McCoy is on Earth looking to get a shuttle to the Genesis planet. And the waitress who knows Dr. McCoy, but he's got Spock's Katra in him.
Now you got to say it like...
It's basically half Spock. He goes... And she goes, "Oh, hi, Doc. It's been a long time. What's your poison?" To expect poison in a bar is not logical.
Yeah, okay. Someone who's seen it one too many times. Okay.
Oh, I know what she says. She says, "What's your poison?" She goes, "No, I'm still saying it wrong." And I should know this. She asks what she can have. He says, "I want all tear water." She goes, "That's not your usual poison." To expect one to order poison in a bar is not logical. He says for the third time.
Third fucking time.
It's late as we record this.
Hey, third time's the charm.
There you go.
Okay, so I have said so many on the other episode. I don't have any other ones to close this out, but Soren's a good start. And Christopher Lloyd as the Klingon commander in part 3.
Yep.
And it's Krug, or is it
Krug?
Krug.
RG.
And he just belts it out when he's saying that.
Very German sounding.
Right. But so no, this is interesting how we've talked about all these different cultures. And again, they don't exist. They're in all these.
It's so hard to talk about Star Trek without going outside, coloring outside the lines and talking about other elements of it.
It's going to happen because they're mirroring not only social commentary in real life, but then they're also mirroring other fantasies, other fictional realms. Like without Blade Runner, you pretty much don't get Data on Star Trek. But then some of these other ones.
Why is Brent Spiner in Blade Runner?
No, it's just very similar with the cerebral cortex of the cyberpunk aspect of androids.
Interesting. Okay.
But
I don't know. I mean, I know they've got, what do they call them?
replicants.
Variants. Oh, replicants. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew there was something like that, but yeah, I know that they're supposed to be like similar or modeled after humans, but they're
Basically,
not.
Roy Beatty in that Rutger Hauer's villain is basically lore.
Oh, okay.
So, but
Interesting.
I mean, if you've seen Battlestar Galactica, you kind of have already seen a little bit of Blade Runner because it's a lot.
Yeah,
of the same
Rutger
kind.
Hauer was the consummate bad guy in the 80s.
Yeah, he rules, man. He did rule.
Wait. What year were you born? I know how old you are, but
I
what
was
year were you
born in the
born?
90s, but I watched plenty of 80s movies because they're on
I
TV
know,
all the
but
time.
you didn't see them when they were fresh, when they were new. You didn't go to the theater to see them.
You don't have to go to the theater to appreciate the movie.
No, I get that, but there's something about it being like, oh, this brand new thing is out. There's that versus, okay, now it's a cult classic
Well, I'll
and
put
you
it to
get to
you
see
this
it.
way. Without Blade Runner, I wouldn't give a shit about detective movies or novels.
Okay, fair enough.
That is
Film
Harrison
noir.
Ford's best role. I'll even go there.
Now, I want to see Blade Runner 2049 notwithstanding, but do you think the original or the director's cut is the one that somebody who's never seen it should go see?
You should watch all 5 versions of it and make your own mind.
You know, it's like if you watch Superman 2, do you want to watch the original theatrical version or the Jack Donner version?
It's not like that. It's not like Waterworld where I get more story development versus more action.
Oh, I wouldn't give you a wooden nickel for Waterworld, and I never saw that one either.
It's a good movie,
Okay,
but it's hated because Heaven's Gate.
I like Kevin Costner. I was on the set of his baseball movie for Love of the
Draft
Game.
Day. So I take it you meant...
No, for Love of the Game.
Oh.
But that one, Draft Day, I love. That one's about football. This one was about baseball.
Yeah, my bad.
But
Different. He's done so many.
I was an extra in that movie too. But unlike Jingle All the Way, for Love of the Game, whatever footage I was in, because I actually talked to Kevin Costner briefly in between takes. But whatever scene I shot with him wound up on the cutting room floor because when I watched the movie, I was nowhere to be seen.
And you're like, why did they fucking film it? It didn't have anything.
I don't know if I thought that or just like, oh man.
You're happy to see it, but it does get.
I was like, listen, I was happy for as much coverage as I got in Jingle All the Way because in addition to the scene with the angry moms, smacking with their pocketbooks, there's a scene immediately following that where he's talking to the mall Santa, and there's extras off in the distance recycling in the background. Yep. I'm seeing there. I mean, literally between the carrying the wrapping paper when he goes, "I'm not the pervert," and when he's talking to the mall Santa, I probably have like a grand total of 3.5 seconds of screen time on 3 different appearances that I'm there. So each one's like a second to a second and a half. But I'm grateful to have them.
But I'm glad that you did the extra experience. I'm glad you did it because much like when we watch all these same reused bridge crew who actually have names and a featured line of dialogue and recurring extras, I mean, I ended up observing it on all these other shows. And it's even funnier when you see someone else who's not credited. And then having to get the gist of filmmaking as a whole is like, I'm expecting a boom mic to drop into the shot randomly. And I didn't see that guy's face, so he's probably got a $50 extra, and they hired a professional, voice actor to do the help me, my car's on fire. It's always funny how doing the experience gets you in it. Now you know all the terminology. You know what an Apple Card is for someone to stand on. Second unit. Growing up, you're like, what the fuck is that?
Boom mic.
Boom mic.
We got a boom mic.
We'll fix it in post. No, we won't.
I say that now, just editing podcasts.
Yeah, podcast gives us an even more appreciation of audio dramas that we grew up listening to, all this shit that we don't want to deal with, but we know it better than anyone.
Theater of the mind.
Theater of the mind. And the mind is a dangerous place to be, especially if it's Jordy's mind. Oh
boy.
I take it you've seen that Family Guy episode where they make fun of that and they're like, his vision is from Roots. That's so meta. I was like, that is creepy. Don't do that again.
Just a bit.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So whose mind would you not want? Would you prefer to be trapped in? Kirk or Data's? It's going to get weird either way.
Yeah, well,
In Kirk's mind, you're going to be the guy fighting.
At least with Data, it would be a little more innocuous and pure. You never know what's going on in Kirk's mind.
Yeah, Kirk, you're pretty much going to be the guy who he's beating up for the girl. It's a Western. It's a Gary Cooper slugfest. So it's going to, you'll either get killed, but it won't be with any intent. It's just going to be, well, I guess everyone died in this disturbing vision he had with Spot. At least you get to pet a cat. So, yeah.
Oh, boy.
You're not a fan of cats? Okay, sorry. We'll make it dogs.
No, I don't care either way. Just, whatever.
Oh, whatever. Now you should say that's Spock style. It's most illogical. Whatever. Anyway, so what can we promote here on your show? What can we pimp out on the Treksperts that's coming out?
Well, there are two primary shows. I am the Apple and Mac pundit on a nationally syndicated radio show called Computer Talk Radio. Hosted by Benjamin Rockwell. So I'm literally on that show like 8 to 10 minutes a week. It's a 2-hour show.
You still got Pour the Milk?
But I do have that. But the interesting thing about Computer Talk Radio is that it's not just a podcast. It actually is a terrestrial radio show, which is broadcast on 15 different radio stations around the country. But if you're in a market that doesn't happen to get it, you can also listen to it as a podcast. And it was with my producer, who's in LA, Benjamin Rockwell, that we kind of hit it off and started talking about all kinds of nerdy, fun topics. We spun off the Computer Talk Radio Nerdcast, which spawned the Treksperts Roundtable, because we wound up just talking about just Star Trek. I found a couple other people who feel similarly to the way we do. And then Benjamin is what I refer to as my serial foil. He is the one person on the Just Pour the Milk podcast that does not like pre-sweetened cereal. So the rest of the show is all adults, late 40s, early 50s, who grew up during the golden age of cereal in the 70s and 80s, when we'd have a bowl of cereal on a Saturday morning with our Saturday morning cartoons. And then we have Benjamin on because we'll make him eat the same cereal, but it's hilarious because he doesn't have this fond nostalgia for it. He's like, oh my God, I got diabetes just from smelling the box, so he's hilarious. We call him our cereal foil.
Yeah.
But there are new episodes.
The cerealists.
You're right. Of the Treksperts Roundtable podcast and Just Pour the Milk podcast coming soon.
Sweet. Costs not included.
Say that again?
Costs not included.
I'm missing that. What's not included?
Costs not included. This is what I think about living here.
That's why we have a mute button on the microphone.
Oh.
Happens when I talk too much.
We all do. That's the fun of it. And then we get to decide, like a director on our newest blockbuster, what stays in and what's too much.
There you go.
What's a leftover blooper special.
So we talked for quite a while, Cam. How much do you edit out on an average basis?
Oh, there's going to be 2 separate episodes. We'll do the legendary Star Trek versus Wars and Lord of the Rings Redux, and then I'll mix in your takes for the villains.
Oh, perfect. I look forward to seeing that. Didn't plan on recording 2 episodes with you, but it'll be good.
Dude.
Although I do want to talk to you about the Muppets when you're ready to record that episode. I
promise we will do but it's going to be like the whole Jim Henson ranking. So you can put in, hey, this era Sesame Street, 5 out of 5. This era Sesame Street. Yeah, Labyrinth you can put in as overrated. I personally am not crazy about Dark Crystal, so I'll put that in overrated.
Oh, you don't like the Dark Crystal?
Yeah, I like Labyrinth.
I never got around to seeing the series, but I love
the show is good.
Movie.
Ironically,
is it really? Really? Okay.
If you like, again, just the still practical.
Stuff. Just everything they go through. Just real quick, everything they go through to get to the end of that movie, and all the Skeksis and the wise ones. What do they call it? The wise ones. There's the Skeksis, were the creepy looking ones.
I will have to rewatch it.
And then Kira.
I don't hate it. It's Kira just a little slow.
Kira lies dying, and she's like, heal the crystal gen. And he takes the shard and jams it in, and everything, just the lights go everywhere. It's great. I love it. But that's what I'm talking about. That movie came out in, 82? When
Something
I was
like
like
that.
14.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it in the theater first run. So, it's a different era we talk about stuff like that.
Well, but that's the beauty of Jim Henson, is like going through the maze of just classic. When TV was live, there was no, and there was a repeat at 8 or whatever. And then deciding which of the Disney, post-Disney era was decent and which ones were just schlocky. I'm still in your word. Cash-ins. Like,
it's all good.
Like, much like those new Star Wars movies, I fucking hate those new Muppet movies. I was just like, I can clearly see the green screen. There's no life. There's no investment in this. And the music numbers really don't have anything to do with the plot. So why am I watching this? Jim Henson worked when, again, the music was fourth wall breaking and it drove the story forward. If you just have a music number and jokes and they don't amount to the actual main plot A or plot B, why am I watching it? And so many people, I mean, you've done it many times on Treksperts, but I really do wish people would have more conversations on style versus substance.
Absolutely. 100%.
Is the Matrix.
I could not agree with you more, Cam.
Well, and especially when you get to a post-Matrix era, how much of it is style and zero substance, and how much of it is substance, but it's got a style, and how much of it is just Fast and Furious, where we don't care. And we're going to go through
like, what are they up to now? Like 9, 10 movies? That franchise?
And then they might as well be 100 movies, because each movie feels like 6 different movies stapled together.
I've never seen one of them.
You basically already did if you saw Star Trek Beyond. That's a Fast and Furious ship show.
Oh, wow. Sick burn.
See what I went there? But it is funny because I see so many people who are driven crazy by it, and they'll still go see it. Yeah. And then I see people like my sister who don't like any other kinds of action movies like that, but they'll still see that. So it's just mind-blowing how, kind of when you get into different sci-fi, fantasy, even horror guys, how they make an exception to this versus that. And it's like, well, but they're kind of all part of the same dog shit that you want to avoid. So why is this different from that? And I can't do it because it's tone shift. Yeah. 1 minute it's camp, the next minute it's serious, the next minute it's who gives a shit. I'm like, well, why do I give a shit?
Well
and
stated.
That is our show tonight. And please, everyone, follow Keith on the social medias, all the other platforms, all his other shows with the Action Hour crew.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Treksperts, or if you're into cereal, at Just Pour the Milk. Also on Instagram, but the big places are in your podcast feed, mostly on Apple Music, but pretty much anywhere fine podcasts are served. You can listen to the Treksperts Roundtable and also Just Pour the Milk. I hope you.
If we really wanted to, we could have included plenty of other villains, plenty of others from DS9 and Voyager, plenty of others from even Axanar and Of Gods and Men. But we decided to just go for the big ones, the in the kisser ones. So
there you go. We were on the nose tonight.
On the nose. One nose to beam up.
We'll return after these messages.
Hey, it's Brent Pope, the host of Breakfast with Brent Pope. You've seen me on some of your favorite TV shows saying things like, "Give it up, Jimmy. You got to sink this putt to win." On Breakfast with Brent Pope, I sit down with guests from the entertainment world, and we do it all over breakfast. Or should I say Brentfast? Every week on Brentfast, you get inside Hollywood info and tips, great breakfast recs and booty debates. Most of all, you get the most delightful 30 minutes of your week. So dig in. It's Brentfast time. Listen at Brentfast.com, Apple Podcasts, or wherever fine podcasts are found.
Do you ever find yourself thinking about who would win in a fight between Goku and Superman? Hi, I'm James Gavsey, and on the Who Would Win show, me and my co-host Ray ignore anything important happening in the outside world and debate fictional battles between characters from comics, movies, and video games.
We got a new show every week, and almost always am I the winner.
Yeah, not true, Ray.
In the past, we've discussed such matches as Captain America versus Darth Vader, Solid Snake versus the Iron Giant, classic matchups like RoboCop versus Terminator, and even the Muppets versus Sesame Street.
That one was crazy. So if you're a fan of geek culture and love a spirited debate, check out the Who Would Win show wherever you get your podcasts, or check us out at whowouldwinshow.com.
us on the web on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. The podcast is available on Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, and anywhere else podcasts are available. Feel free to review our show and leave comments on any of those sites. Thanks a million for listening.
It's a jacked up